Have you ever felt a connection to the past, so strong it feels like a memory you haven't lived? For Thomas, it all began in a dusty corner of a forgotten antique shop. He was a historian, a man who loved the stories whispered by old objects, but he never expected to find a story that would claim him as its own. It was a sepia-toned photograph, dated 1898. A group of people at a country fair, their faces a blur of forgotten smiles. But one figure stood out, as clear as if she were standing right there. A woman in a simple, elegant green dress. There was something in her eyes, a knowing glance that seemed to leap across the century and land squarely on him. He bought the photo, feeling an inexplicable pull. Back in his study, surrounded by books and maps, the photograph felt alive. He couldn't shake her image. The way the light caught the folds of her dress, the hint of a smile on her lips. It was just a beautiful old picture, he told himself. A trick of the light. But a week later, at a flea market across town, he found another. A black and white snapshot from the 1920s, a jazz club buzzing with life. And there she was again, in the same green dress, her arm linked with a musician's, her laughter frozen in time. She hadn't aged a day. Coincidence? Thomas's rational mind screamed yes, but his heart whispered something else. This was the beginning of his obsession. He started hunting for her, scouring archives, flea markets, and online estate sales. He found her on a grainy film reel from a 1940s New Year's Eve party in New York, dancing as confetti fell around her. He found her in a sun-bleached Polaroid from a 1970s summer festival, her green dress a vibrant splash of color against the tie-dye crowd. Paris, 1955. London, 1968. Tokyo, 1982. She was everywhere and everywhen. Always in the same green dress, always with that same enigmatic smile, never looking a day older than she did in that first photograph from 1898. The world began to fade for Thomas. His research projects gathered dust. His friends' calls went unanswered. His life became a mosaic of these captured moments, a puzzle with one beautiful, impossible piece at its center. He lined the photos up on his wall, creating a timeline that defied time itself. Who was she? A ghost? A time traveler? An immortal being cursed to wander through the ages? He gave her a name, Ilara. It meant shining light. And to him, that's what she was, a beacon in the fog of history. He would talk to her photographs, sharing his day, asking her questions he knew she couldn't answer. He was falling in love with a ghost, a dream, a collection of silver halide crystals. One night, while poring over a new find, a digital photo from 2005, a crowded market in Marrakesh, he noticed something he'd missed before. In every single picture, hidden somewhere in the background, was another recurring detail. A small, almost imperceptible symbol. It looked like an Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, but intertwined with a budding flower. It was a clue, the first real thread he could pull. His heart hammered in his chest. This wasn't just a collection of random appearances. There was a pattern, a purpose. His historical research skills, long dormant, roared back to life. He traced the symbol through obscure alchemical texts and forgotten folklore. It was an ancient sigil representing not just eternity, but a specific kind of eternal return, a love so powerful it could bend the fabric of time, allowing two souls to find each other again and again, lifetime after lifetime. The legend spoke of a vow, a promise made between two lovers that they would never truly be parted. One would wait, timeless, while the other journeyed through life, until the moment they were ready to be found. The realization hit Thomas like a physical blow. He wasn't just an observer. He was part of the story. The pull he felt, the immediate recognition, the obsessive need to find her. It wasn't just a historian's curiosity. It was a memory, deep in his soul, waking up. He looked at the faces of the men she was with in the photographs. The musician in the 20s, the soldier in the 40s, the artist in the 70s. In their eyes, in the line of their jaw, in the way they stood, he saw himself. Not literally, but echoes. Different lives, different faces, same soul, his soul. This wasn't a haunting. It was a reunion, stretched across a century. Ilara wasn't a ghost he was chasing. She was his destiny, patiently waiting for him to remember. But how could he reach her? How could he bridge the gap between his present and her timeless existence? The legend was vague on the final step. It spoke of an act of pure faith, a moment where the seeker must let go of the world they know to step into the story itself. Thomas looked around his study, at the wall of photographs. It was his life's work, a testament to his love. But it was also a cage, a collection of pasts he couldn't touch. He knew what he had to do. He packed a small bag, taking only one thing with him. The very first photograph, the one from 1898. He went back to the antique shop where it all began. The old proprietor looked up, a knowing glint in his eye, as if he'd been expecting him. "Looking for something?" he asked. "Or someone?" Thomas simply smiled. "I think she's looking for me." He walked past the old man, towards a back room he'd never noticed before, a door covered in a heavy velvet curtain. As his hand reached for the fabric, he felt a strange sensation, like the hum of a tuning fork. He glanced back at the shop, at the world of clocks and schedules and linear time, and then he looked forward, into the darkness behind the curtain. He wasn't afraid. For the first time, he felt a profound sense of peace, of coming home. He pulled the curtain aside and stepped through. What did he find on the other side? Was it the country fair from 1898? A jazz club in the roaring 20s? Or somewhere else entirely new? The story doesn't tell us, because from that moment on, Thomas was no longer a historian studying the past. He was living in it, or perhaps living outside of it altogether. He had stepped out of the photograph frame of his own life and into hers. The legend of the woman in the green dress gained a new chapter, and somewhere, in a future antique shop, perhaps a young woman will find a photograph. A picture of a crowded street in a city that doesn't exist on any map. And in that photo, she'll see a man with kind eyes, standing beside a woman in an elegant green dress, both of them smiling, as if they're sharing a secret with her, a secret that spans all of time. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If you love stories that blur the lines between history, mystery, and romance, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It means the world to me. See you in the next story.